Hey, it's bright and early on a Saturday morning. The sun hasn't even risen. Hey, it's been so hot here during the day, up into the 100s, that it's just impossible to get up on a peak during noontime. So we're going to leave in a couple minutes before the sun rises and go to Henry Peak, which is just a few miles out of town. From my driveway, you can see Henry Peak in the background. It's the second peak to the right above my neighbor's house. It's only about 12 miles away. It's mostly drive to and then about half a mile of bushwhacking up a hill. So I've done it twice before. Let's get this peak activated this year before the sun comes up too high. Henry Peak is a 6,100 foot mountain on the outskirts of Plains, Montana, where I live. It's about 13 miles to the northeast of town. It's accessible mostly by Forest Service road, and the last 2/3 of the mile is completely bushwhacking, and that's why I call this a two-point beast. The 2/3 of a mile you have to hike is over logs and shrubbery, which I'll show you in a second. Because it's 6,100 feet, it's only a 2-point peak. The elevation gain in the short 2/3 of a mile that you hike is about 900 feet, so it's pretty steep. Here's the summits on the air map of all the peaks in my neighborhood. I live over here in Plains. This is the Highway 200. Up to the northwest, you get to Thompson Falls and Knoxon and eventually to the Idaho border. To the east, you go through Paradise, Perma, Dixon, and eventually it winds its way south to Missoula, Montana. From Plains, I have several peaks that I can see from my house. Patrick's Knob, here to the south. Locust Hill, which I just did the other day. There'll be a video on that soon. Deemer Peak, which I've done. And here's Henry Peak, 6,056 feet, a two-pointer. Sonic Mountain, way over here to the right. Now that's on Indian Reservation land, which I did a few weeks ago. So I got quite a bit of inventory for SOTA peaks around my house. But Henry Peak I've done twice, and so this is the third time I've done it. The problem with it, the reason it's so tough, is this is what you're hiking through. The Forest Service 3 years ago felled all these juvenile trees in an attempt to prevent any forest fire that might come through the area, to limit the amount of fuel the fire had and hopefully keep the blaze to a minimum. So this is what I walked through for 2/3 of a mile. Another view of it, I had my sister with me that day. This is what we walked over for 2/3 of a mile. So it's not a stroll in the park. And as you can see in front of her, it's sometimes quite wooded and not as opened up as you get here. However, once you get to the top, it's a stunning view, well worth the hike. So put Henry Peak on your list. From Plains, Montana, we're taking the Highway 200 east, and shortly after you get out of town, and before you get to Paradise, we're going to take a left-hand turn onto this Forest Service road. This Forest Service road is number 661 and is appropriately named Henry Creek Road, which takes us to Henry Peak. Here we go. All right, a few miles up Henry Creek Road, we see the road splits. To the right, it takes a hairpin turn off to the right. That's where we're going, to Henry Peak. To the left is another Forest Service road that takes you to Deemer Peak, which we activated several weeks ago. So on this road, there's 2 peaks. You can do them both in a day, but I like to do them one at a time. All right, we got the Jeep parked. You can tell that by the road we came up on that it's not too traveled. I don't think anyone's been up here in a long time. Got the Jeep on the side of the road. We got about a quarter-mile hike up there. And we're going to take a left and start bushwhacking up the top. Okay, we walked about a quarter-mile down the road from the Jeep. And as you can see, the road is not well traveled. Off to the side, we've got a little marker here. This was put up 2 years ago when the Forest Service was up behind us here, cutting down small trees to decrease the chance of a fire. So we're going to sort of take this old path the Forest Service had, and it just takes us up to the knoll, and then we take a right and scramble up to the top. We're at the top of the little knoll. Henry Peak is dead ahead of us. You can't see it. It's covered by tree cover. But you can see all the fallen logs that were cut down a couple years ago in case a fire came through. It would be less fuel to catch. So we gotta stomp over these guys. There's no trail from here on out, but we'll get there. All right, we're at the peak. I'm at the place where I'm gonna set my antenna. Looking to the south, you can see the Clark Fork River coming in and Highway 135 where it meets the 200, which is just behind that little knoll. So we're right above the intersection of Highway 135 and the 200 looking south. Should be a good activation. I got a lot of scenery in front of me. So this is the Relive video we made with my sister's app and her GPS watch. This is a Google Earth view of where we were. You can see the Forest Service roads that we're on. The white dot is where we parked the Jeep, and so you're going to see us start walking down the road here nice and easy, and as soon as we get to that spot where the red ribbon was, we start going into the forest between the up to the knoll between the two peaks. We start scrambling to the south up to the peak, and again, this took an hour to go 2/3 of a mile. This was not easy to do. So it's a tough two-pointer. Coming back down, we pretty much retrace our steps. There's no path. Then we get back on the Jeep road, and we are ready to go home. It's a pretty cool app called Relive. It gives you a summary of what you did at the end up here, and something fun to look at. And this is what I like about doing summits on the air. It takes you to places that normally you would never even consider going. For example, Henry Peak. Outside of having a name, there's no reason to come up here. There's several other named peaks with established hiking trails around me that give you a much better view of this terrain, but this is a SOTA peak. I'll get some points. I've hiked in places I don't think anyone's ever hiked. I activated this last year and the year before, and because it's such a tough scramble to get up the hill over fallen trees and shrub, I don't think anyone's been up here besides me. So that's what makes it fun. SOTA gets you outdoors, gets you hiking, and it takes you to places no one's ever been or places no one would ever want to go to. But once you get up here, the view is great. It's worth it. It's really worth it. So what I've started to do when I'm on top of a peak, assuming I've got cell coverage, is I take a snapshot of my QST on an app I've got on my phone, and this reminds me when I get home exactly where I was, elevation, longitude, latitude. And I also take a screenshot of the SOTA app showing me that I'm within the activation zone. So I prove it to myself I'm legal here. So I pretty much am says within activation zone. So I started doing that, and again, assuming I got cell reception. And on my setup, I found this pole sticking in the ground out of some rocks, and I thought I could just slide my 20-foot extendable fishing pole into the hole, but it's got a plug on it about a 1/2 inch down. So I strapped it to the pole with a couple bungee cords, which was usually what I do. And attached to the top of that, as you can see in the distance there, I've got a end-fed wire that comes off the top, 88 feet. The wire comes directly back at you here on the picture, and I'm sitting down in the shade and setting up in a really nice environment. It was cool. I was in the shade. It's only 9 o'clock. I got up there early, and nice breeze. It was really comfortable being up there. And bird's eye view. I'm setting the radio up. I'm in my chair, about ready to go online. So that's the setup. All set up, ready to go. I got my Elocraft KX3 with the antenna wire going off to the left, the orange one, the counterpoise to the right. Got the battery hooked up. I'm sitting in the shade. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. It's cool in the shade. This is wonderful. Sometimes these SOTA spots get really hot and miserable. This is going to be cool. I decided not to film my live QSOs for this video, sort of as an experiment and sort of because I forgot to. That's the real reason. The QSOs I got on this peak were very straightforward, nothing funny, nothing challenging, nothing interesting, pretty much straightforward data exchange and no personal interest in the QSOs. I'm going to go over my logbook with you in just a minute, but the QSOs I had on this were not very exciting. When I first got into YouTube videos, I emphasized live QSOs. I had 10-15 minutes of them on my videos and not too much introduction and summary at the end. And I've gradually put more and more information into my videos about the area, the park, the peak, how to get there, how difficult it was, things I found, and then summarizing and trying to help you guys, if you ever want to go to these peaks, get there. And it's become more and more of that and less of the QSOs. The QSOs I do film live are usually the more interesting ones. But today I decided not to put them in there. You guys let me know if you like the format, if you want to see more live QSOs, less, sort of a mix. I think I'm going to end up doing more of a mix. But that's the reason you didn't see me do any live QSOs. So in the comments section, if you could leave me a comment if you like seeing more live QSOs or less or more information, let me know. I can go either way. So whatever you guys want, this channel's for you. Other thing I wanted to talk about is the difficulty of the summits. As you know, the point ranges from 1 to 10 on summits on the air, and that only has to do with how high the peak is, its elevation. It has nothing to do with how difficult the peak is. However, in general, the higher the peak, it's harder to get there. But there's exceptions to the rule. Pikes Peak in Colorado, 14,000 feet high. A big old 10-pointer. It's been activated 164 times. That's because you can drive to it. It's the 10-pointer you can drive to. So many people have activated that, it's not funny. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Locust Hill, which is the closest SOTA peak to my hometown, something I look at every morning when I drive to work. I've been planning to do that for a year, and I did it a couple weeks ago. It was the worst activation I've done. It was just horrible. A stupid one-pointer, and it was just a bear. It was all scramble. It was very steep on scree and bear grass covered scree and manzanita. I cut myself up. It was hot. There were bugs, and I had to get permission to go on the land because part of the roads you get to get there is owned by a local business. So it was a real pain. This Locust Hill on the map here, and all these roads with power lines. It looks like you should be able to get to it, but I took 2 or 3 dry runs trying to find these roads to get there, and it finally, after a year, found out how to get there, and I had to get permission. And on top of that, it was a horrible hike. I'm never going to do this again. I'm glad I got it. I'm the first one to get it, probably the last one to get it. But that's just the point I'm making is there are tough one-pointers and there are easy 8, 9, 10-pointers. So just because it's a high-numbered peak doesn't mean it's that tough. And just because it's a 2 or 1-pointer doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park. You really got to look at the maps and make a determination how easy or hard it is. Okay, here's how we did for Henry Peak. I got 10 QSOs, all between 9 and 10 o'clock. I started about 9:20, finished at 9:52. Half an hour for 10. I went for 10 because Henry Peak is also in Lolo National Forest, so it qualifies as a Parks on the Air park. So in addition to the 4 I needed for SOTA, I got 6 more, so I got both activations covered. As you can see to the right, I got 4 summit to summits. It seems like people were up early on summits and peaks, and I caught them, and I got 1 person on 40 meters. One of the summits to summits was 40 meters. Distance-wise, I got North and South Carolina about 1,900 miles away, and everybody else was pretty much less than 1,000 miles. So it was good. They only came in about every 3 minutes. It was nice. I could hear everybody. And the map looks like this. I'm up here where the red dot is, and there's my 40-meter contact in Utah, pretty much spread across the United States for everybody else. A nice spread there, but it was a great day. I'm going to do that one again next year. Hey, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe my channel. I really enjoy making these. It's a lot of fun, and I hope I'm entertaining you. Any comments, suggestions, or criticisms, please leave a comment. I want to make this channel fun for you. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.